The house she was rushing toward was already surrounded by flashing lights and television cameras. But that was only the beginning of the nightmare, a live broadcast, confessions, secrets that were never meant to surface, and most of all, a single lie, born out of revenge, that put everything at risk. When the truth comes out, it doesn't set you free, it destroys. What would you do if the person you love became your victim, or your executioner? Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. The rush of panic surged through my veins as I maneuvered my car through the dense, suffocating traffic. My heart thudded in my chest, each beat echoing the disbelief crashing through my mind. This wasn't real. Not to us. Not now. Could this really be happening? Only a half hour ago, I had been at my desk at the bank, helping a young couple navigate the process of applying for their first home loan. It had been an ordinary day, quiet, uneventful, until that call. A calm, steady voice had come over the line, identifying itself. "Ma'am, this is Officer Cross from the county police. We need your assistance." "Your husband was seen with a firearm in your home," the officer explained. "A firearm?" I echoed, the words hitting me like ice water. "Yes, ma'am. A neighbor stopped by for something, saw him with the weapon. He's making threats," the officer continued, his voice lowering with concern. "It seems he may be threatening to harm himself." I was paralyzed. Harm himself? Adam? The words barely registered in my mind. None of this made sense. Adam was the last person who would even entertain such thoughts. He was the one always laughing, joking, planning trips, and finding joy in every little moment. He was the farthest from someone who would be in this kind of situation. But a fleeting, terrifying thought entered my mind, one I immediately shoved aside. No, that couldn't be the reason. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my fingers turning white. My pulse roared in my ears as I turned onto our street. And then, the horror hit me full force. The scene ahead was like something out of a nightmare. Police vehicles were parked across the block, their flashing lights bathing the entire neighborhood in a surreal, oppressive glow. Officers were clustered outside our house, their voices overlapping with the static of police radios. A news van from Channel 5 was parked on our lawn, its camera focused directly on our home. I could hardly breathe as I edged closer, my only thought to reach Adam before everything spiraled further out of control. But as I neared the barricade, a police officer stepped in front of me, raising his hand. "Ma'am, you need to turn around," he instructed firmly. "That's my house," I cried, my voice breaking. "That's my husband in there." The officer paused, studying me for a moment. His eyes softened, and he stepped aside, reluctantly gesturing for me to pass. I parked hastily, only to be immediately surrounded by the media. Microphones were thrust into my face, reporters bombarding me with a barrage of questions. "Has your husband ever shown signs of violence? Has he ever done anything like this before? Could this be related to financial problems or issues in your marriage?" Their questions were relentless, each one more invasive than the last. The cameras flashed blindingly, and I felt as though I might choke on the noise. I wanted to scream, to push them all away, to demand that they leave me alone. But instead, I clenched my fists, pushing through the panic, focusing only on one thing: reaching Adam. Is he wanted for crimes elsewhere? The question stopped me dead in my tracks. The reporters' voices faded to a blur, and I couldn't process anything. All I could think of was that my husband needed me. But the media wouldn't let me reach him. They were a wall between us. Before I could respond, I felt a firm, gentle hand on my arm. An officer stepped between me and the press, protecting me from the crowd. "This way," she said, her tone calm but kind. She led me toward a van parked just outside our house, where a few men were huddled around a table, speaking in hushed, tense voices. One pointed to a spot on the house map. We can position a man here, get a clear shot, he said. We're not here to take him down, another man shot back, his voice edged with frustration. Our goal is to help him, but he's a threat to himself and to my team. If he does anything— Stop! I shouted, my voice cutting through the conversation. All eyes snapped to me, the tension thick in the air. The officer who had brought me here spoke up before anyone could ask anything. This is Mrs. Benton, she introduced. The first man stepped forward, extending his hand. Mrs. Benton, I'm Jason Harris, the negotiator for the local PD. May I speak with you for a moment? Before I could respond, the man who had been speaking earlier interrupted. We need to know how many weapons he's got inside, he demanded. He could be armed to the teeth. No, I interrupted sharply, my voice unwavering. We don't own any guns. I don't know where he got the one you're talking about. He muttered something under his breath, turning to his team. He must have acquired it recently. We'll check the gun shops. I couldn't listen anymore. My voice wavered as I snapped, Enough! You're wasting time. He needs help, not more speculation. Jason Harris raised a hand, his expression understanding and calm. Ma'am, I know this is incredibly upsetting, but we need all the information we can get to resolve this safely. Please, can we talk? I hesitated, but eventually nodded. My pulse quickened, the weight of worry for Adam gnawing at me. Rick, can you give me a moment to do my job before we start discussing violence? Jason's voice cut through the tension, sharp and unwavering, his eyes locking with mine, silencing Rick in an instant. Was it really possible that they were thinking of harming my husband? The thought made my stomach lurch, dread coiling deep within. Jason gestured for me to step aside, his voice gentler now, guiding me away from the others. Mrs. Benton, please, come with me, he said quietly, leading me a few steps farther. I need to ask you something. Has your husband seemed down lately? I instinctively shook my head. No, not really, I said, though internally I screamed in contradiction. Liar. The truth was just out of reach, an unspoken shadow that I was unwilling to face. There had been signs, something off, but I couldn't bring myself to share that now. Jason's gaze deepened and he sighed. May I call you Maya? He asked gently. I nodded in silence. Maya, did you know your husband quit his job 2 days ago? The words hit me like a slap. What? I barely managed to whisper, my breath caught in my throat. No, that can't be right. We were just talking last night. He was so full of life. Full of life. More so than usual. Jason prodded softly. I paused, a cloud of doubt hovering over my thoughts. Well, things had been difficult, but we were getting through it. He was optimistic, happy even. Jason's tone remained steady but firm. What kind of challenges were you both dealing with? I stiffened, a knot forming in my chest. I'm not sure how that's relevant, I responded, my voice tight. Maya, I know this is hard, Jason said, his voice softer now, yet filled with empathy. But the more we understand, the better our chances are of helping him. Before I could reply, another officer rushed up, breathless with urgency. Jason, we made contact with him, he said. Jason's expression twisted in disbelief. How? He demanded. I thought the house lines were down, the officer explained. He managed to get a signal to the live truck across the street. The crew says we can use their equipment to talk to him, but they want an exclusive broadcast in return. Jason's jaw tightened, his discomfort evident. I don't like this, he muttered, clearly unsettled. How did he even get a signal through? I interrupted, a mix of pride and frustration in my voice. My husband used to work at that station. He was the engineer for their live truck. He installed most of the equipment himself. Jason raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed by the revelation. For a fleeting moment, despite everything, I felt a strange sense of pride in Adam's ingenuity. But that feeling was quickly overshadowed by the cold weight of the situation. They led me into the news truck, and stepping inside was like walking into a memory. The space looked just as I remembered, though the carpet had been replaced with a darker shade. The sea of buttons, switches, and screens was unchanged. How Adam had kept it all straight, I couldn't fathom. Inside, one of the reporters who had earlier confronted me was speaking into a microphone, her gaze fixed intently on a screen in front of her. I followed her stare, and my heart froze. There, on the screen, was Adam. Seeing him there was like being struck in the chest. He looked so different, almost unrecognizable. His hair, usually a wild mess, was shaved short, his face gaunt and his eyes haunted. Exhaustion, or perhaps something darker, clung to his features. His chest was bare, pale under the dim light. But what shocked me more than his appearance was the gun. The image flickered, grainy but clear enough. Adam, a man who had always despised guns, was holding one in his hand. My stomach churned with fear and confusion. Why? How had it come to this? A cold wave of dread enveloped me, gripping my heart. Adam. Jason's voice sliced through my thoughts as he grabbed the microphone from the reporter. His tone was calm but firm. "This is Jason Harris. We're here to help. Shut up!" Adam's voice exploded from the speakers, raw with fury, despair, and something else, something unrecognizable. It was the voice of someone broken, spiraling downward. "I know what you're doing," Adam shouted, his voice wild with panic. "You're trying to stop me, but you can't! You can't! I have to do this! I can't go on! I can't live with what I've done!" he added, his voice cracking under the weight of the words. "She can't forgive me, and I—" His voice faltered, choked with sorrow. "I've ruined everything." I could barely stand, my legs trembling under me as his pain seeped into my bones. What could he have done that was so unforgivable? "Adam, who's she? Are you talking about your wife? Maya is right here with me. Should I put her on the phone? You can speak to her, Adam." "You're trying to pull something on me." Adam's voice cut in, laced with doubt. "She's not there. You're just trying to deceive me. She would never come near me. She loathes me. How can we be certain she's truly there, Adam?" Jason kept his tone steady, despite the tension in the air. "How do we prove it?" "Show her to me," Adam demanded. "I want to see her." Jason hesitated, a brief flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Adam, we can't do that," he said, carefully weighing his words. "Not while you're holding a gun. Her safety is my top priority. Then show her on the screen. Split the screen. Let us both see each other." Jason turned to the reporter next to him, seeking clarification. "What does he mean by that?" The reporter, maintaining her calm, briefly slipped into a more relaxed demeanor as she explained. "It's a standard setup for television. We split the screen, one side for him, the other for her. That way they can speak to one another directly." Jason nodded, his decision made. "Let's do it." The reporter gave a quick signal to her team. 3 minutes. We'll be live? My confusion only grew as the gravity of the situation began to sink in. The reporter barely acknowledged me as she answered. "Of course, dear. How else would he see you?" The room erupted into frantic activity as the crew worked to set everything up. Before I could fully process what was happening, I found myself sitting in front of a camera, a microphone clipped to my shirt, and an earpiece securely in place. And then, without warning, I heard his voice. "Is that you, sweetheart? Are you really there?" Adam's voice trembled, disbelief mixed with a faint spark of hope. "Oh, Adam," I sobbed, my heart cracking. "What are you doing?" I'm doing what I should have done 2 weeks ago," he interrupted, his tone heavy, almost flat. "When I woke up next to Letitia, I should have ended it then. But I didn't. Now I have to face the consequences. I can't stay here. Not after everything I've done." My heart sank. He was still trapped in the same place, the affair, the guilt. I thought we had moved past it. I had forgiven him. He had forgiven me. But if he was still holding on to that? "Adam, please hear me," I begged, my voice trembling. That's behind us now. We've moved on. I forgave you. You forgave me, Adam muttered, bitterness lacing his words, his voice breaking. But I can't forgive myself. I was a good husband, a good man. But after that party, I ruined everything. I had to. His voice cracked, and I could almost feel the weight of his words, the tears threatening to spill. I had no choice. He was drowning in guilt, and it was suffocating me too. My own regrets, my own guilt. They tangled together in this storm. I couldn't let him keep sinking like this. I loved him too much to lose him, even with everything that had gone wrong. Damn Letitia and her twisted advice. If only she hadn't. You know what's strange, honey? Adam's voice broke into my thoughts, bitter and empty. I can't even remember it. All I recall is waking up feeling terrible the next day. It was the drinking, Adam. You were out of control, drunk. You couldn't stop what happened, but I could. His voice wavered, despair creeping in. And look at what I did. I broke my vows, and I made you break yours too. The weight of his words hung between us, and I could feel it pressing down on me. But I couldn't stop. His pain was raw, so painfully real. Oh, sweetheart, I should have never done what I did, I whispered, my voice breaking. But I thought I had to. I wanted revenge on you. Mark didn't matter, but you enjoyed it. Adam's voice surged with anger and sadness. I know you did. You made me listen to you. I turned you into something I shouldn't have. What kind of man does that to his wife? Honey, we can work through this, I pleaded, my heart racing in my chest. My revenge was stupid. I should have never listened to Letitia. Letitia? His tone sharpened, suspicion threading through his words. I thought you weren't speaking to her anymore. Panic twisted in my gut. Think quickly. Oh God, think fast. She came to me, I blurted out. She apologized. She insisted I had to make you pay, but deep down, I believe she was just projecting her own anguish onto me. She wasn't thinking straight. Adam let out a hollow, bitter laugh, the sound slicing through the silence. Maya, he said, his voice trembling, I care about you, but I can't keep doing this. I can't live like this anymore. His voice cracked as he fought to get the words out, the pain in them almost too much to bear. I cheated on you. I broke your trust. I ruined everything we had. I deserve to suffer for this. I can't carry this weight. Tears fell uncontrollably as I stared into the camera, my chest heavy, desperately hoping my words would break through, stop him from going further. His confession pierced my heart. Then, in a moment of sheer panic, he raised the gun to his head. No. He's really going to do it. I can't let this happen. The words slipped out before I could stop them. You never slept with Letitia. Everything came to a halt. The room, the people, even the air seemed to freeze. Shock hung in the stillness, reflected in the stunned faces of both Adam and me. I couldn't believe what I'd just said. I had promised I'd never reveal the truth. What do you mean? His voice wavered, filled with confusion and pain. I woke up next to her. We were both naked. She told me, I interrupted, my voice shaking. She lied. Adam stared at the camera, unable to grasp what I was saying. Then how did we? I blurted out, unable to keep the truth buried any longer. We drugged you, Adam. The words spilled out, an uncontrollable flood. We made you believe you had cheated. I knew you never would, but we thought if you thought you had, you'd let me be with Mark. I'm so sorry, honey. I just wanted to be with him. It was nothing more than that. I had to. Why would you do that? He cut in, his voice rising in disbelief and anger. What did I do to deserve this? Nothing, I sobbed, the tears streaming down my face. It was all my fault. Letitia kept going on and on about how great Mark was in bed, and we were both virgins when we married. I just wanted to know what I'd missed. I'm sorry, Adam. You never broke your vows. You're a good man. You've always been a good man. His hand trembled, lowering the gun slightly as he crumbled under the weight of the torment. You were going to let me think I had betrayed you? How long had you been planning this? How did you even manage to drug me? Didn't you care? I could have died. I knew you wouldn't, I said quickly, desperate to make him understand. I almost called it off when you were so sick for those days. But when you recovered, I thought we could go through with it. We came up with the idea a month ago. When we couldn't get you to be interested in Letitia, this seemed like the only way. I just had to sleep with Mark. It felt like something new. And I was so excited. What did you give me? Adam's voice dropped, trembling with barely contained rage. Letitia took something from the hospital where she works, I confessed, my words tumbling out in a rush. I'm not sure what it was, but it worked too well. She tried to wake you, but you didn't respond. She was so eager to be with you, Adam. She couldn't wait. His face contorted in disgust. How long, Maya? How long were you going to let me live this nightmare? Tears poured down my face, and I struggled to make him see the truth. Oh, honey. I thought if we did it just once, if I got it out of my system, we could move on. I thought everything would go back to normal. We could move past it, Adam. I still love you. Love me? His voice rose sharply, filled with disbelief. You call this love? Love doesn't mean drugging me. It doesn't mean conspiring with someone to destroy my life. Before I could speak, Adam disappeared from the camera feed. A cold rush of panic flooded through me as I waited, each second stretching into an eternity. Then, I heard it. The front door crashing open. I turned to see him storming out of the house, his movements frantic, his eyes wild with despair. The gun was still in his hand, and the sight of it filled me with fear. The police were shouting orders, their voices overlapping in chaos, but Jason stepped in to hold them back. Adam walked toward me, his voice a raw blend of fury and heartache. You love me? He screamed. Love doesn't mean trying to destroy me, Maya. It doesn't mean letting a monster violate me in my own home. The officers kept shouting their commands, their voices a backdrop of noise. Put the gun down. Give up, Maya. It's over. Jason's voice pierced the turmoil, his figure darting frantically between us as he struggled to regain control before the situation spiraled even further. I messed up, Adam, I pleaded, my voice breaking under the weight of my words. I had to make him see, had to make him understand. I needed his forgiveness. He always forgave me, didn't he? I had become consumed by my obsession. I never meant for this to happen. I tried to move toward him, but a firm grip on my arm stopped me. An officer held me back. Adam's face contorted in agony, his voice trembling with anguish. You made me believe I was the villain, that I was nothing but a foolish cheat, he shouted. His movements were erratic, pacing rapidly as his frustration bubbled over. Do you have any clue what you've done to me? His voice broke. Do you know how it felt to think I had wronged you so deeply that you were justified in throwing away everything we built together just to be with someone else? It wrecked me, Maya. It destroyed me. Each word was like a slap across my face. His pain was so tangible, and the weapon he held only intensified the tension. I can't do this anymore, he whispered, his voice quivering with despair. You betrayed me, Maya. You shattered my trust, my love, everything we had. You could have destroyed me with what you did, but worse. You destroyed everything I felt for you. My trust, my spirit, my very soul. And now you think you can fix it? Pretend it never happened? His eyes, cold and filled with a bitter mix of rage and sorrow, locked onto mine. What happens next? What if your obsession takes hold again? Will you drug me again? Use me again? What's next, Maya? Will I end up a vegetable from your twisted games while you live without a care? The world seemed to fade away, leaving only the unbearable weight of the destruction I had caused. No, Adam, no! I cried out, my voice desperate. It was only that one time. I swear I'd never do it again. Please, you have to believe me. I love you." Tears blurred my vision, and the unbearable pain of losing everything we once shared threatened to crush me. "It's over, Maya." Adam's voice was cold, final. "I loved you, and look at what you've done." His eyes held mine one last time, as if memorizing my face before he turned away. "Goodbye." As he lifted the gun to his lips, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't bear it. I turned away, bracing for the deafening noise that would mark the end of everything I had known. How had I been so blind? How had I let my selfishness ruin everything? But then there was nothing. No thunderous crack, only silence. The officer holding me shuddered, and in that instant I realized with growing disbelief that he was laughing. Confused and horrified, I turned to him. His quiet chuckles only deepened my sense of dread. I glanced around, and to my shock, the other officers were struggling to stifle their laughter, some of them even covering their mouths. What was going on? My heart raced as I looked back at Adam. His face had transformed, no longer anguished, now marked by disgust. He lowered the gun from his mouth, coughing violently, as if something had lodged in his throat. "Lemon?" He spat, glaring at the weapon in his hand as if it had betrayed him. "Lemon? Who thought this was a good idea?" He aimed the gun at his hand and squeezed the trigger several times, mocking its impotence. "They're all lemons!" he yelled, his frustration building. The tension that had held us captive shattered, and the officers erupted into laughter, the sound ringing out across the yard, mocking everything that had happened before. "Real funny, guys," Adam muttered, sending an accusing look at the nearest officer. But just as quickly, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small clip, and inserted it into the gun. My heart skipped a beat, but something about the way he did it seemed off, unnerving. He raised the gun to his mouth again, pulled the trigger, and to my shock, he began to chew. What's going on? The whole scene felt like something out of a fever dream. The absurdity of it all left me paralyzed, unable to comprehend. "Cherry, I love that flavor," Adam murmured, his eyes glancing at me before turning to the stunned reporters. "Pez," he added, his laughter echoing through the air. It felt like the cruelest of jokes, a brutal reminder of how completely I had been outplayed. "You thought you could trick me?" he sneered, his eyes flashing with triumph. "Remember last week when I was testing that new security system for Max? One of the devices was a listening bug. I heard everything, Maya, everything." "You had me fooled," he continued, his voice darkening. "I was on the edge, but when I overheard you and Letitia making plans, I got angry. I was furious." The officer who had been holding me jerked my arms behind me, slapping handcuffs onto my wrists. The cold metal bit into my skin. "We couldn't charge you before," Adam said with a cold edge. "It was your word against mine. But then we came up with this little trap." He gestured to the scene around us, his eyes gleaming with eerie satisfaction. "We didn't expect the news van, but we adapted." "Well, looks like it worked out," he said with a dark laugh. "You were so easy to deceive, Maya. And now I get to watch as the charges stack up. You're going to pay for what you did." "Stop! Give up!" Jason's voice rang out above the turmoil, his figure darting frantically between us, trying to salvage control before everything completely spiraled out of reach. "I was wrong, Adam," I pleaded, my words barely escaping as they cracked with the weight of my regret. I had to make him understand, had to make him see the truth. He always forgave me, right? I'd become consumed by my own obsession. I never wanted to hurt you. I reached for him, desperate to close the distance, but an officer's firm grip on my arm held me back. Adam's face contorted in agony, his voice breaking under the strain. "You made me think I was the villain, made me believe I was just some foolish adulterer," he shouted. His steps were erratic, back and forth, his mind clearly spiraling as he paced the yard. Do you have any idea what that did to me? His voice cracked in anguish. Do you know how it felt to think I had betrayed you so completely that you had every right to throw everything we had away for someone else? It destroyed me, Maya. It destroyed me. Each word struck like a physical blow. His pain radiated off him, and the weapon he held only made the tension unbearable. I can't do this, he whispered, his voice shaking, cracking under the weight of it all. You betrayed me, Maya. You shattered everything, my trust, my love, all that we built. You might as well have killed me with what you did, he continued, his voice low, bitter. But worse, you killed everything I felt for you. My trust, my soul, my very spirit. And now, you think you can just undo it? Pretend none of it ever happened? His eyes, cold and filled with a cocktail of fury and sorrow, pinned me in place. What happens next time? Will you get obsessed again? Would you drug me again? Use me again? What's the next step, Maya? Am I going to end up in a coma because of your twisted games while you carry on free of guilt? The world around us seemed to blur into nothingness, leaving just the suffocating weight of the disaster I had caused. No, Adam, no! I screamed, my voice a raw, desperate plea. It was only that one time. I swear I would never do it again. Please, you have to believe me. I love you. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision, and the unbearable grief of losing everything we had once shared threatened to crush me. It's over, Maya. Adam's words were cold and final, like a dagger driven into my chest. I loved you. And look what you've done. He held my gaze one last time, as if committing the image of me to memory before turning away. Goodbye. When he lifted the gun to his mouth, my heart shattered into pieces. I couldn't bear it. I turned away, bracing myself for the deafening sound of destruction. How had I been so blind? How had I let my selfishness ruin everything? But then silence, no gunshot. Just the stillness of the air around us. The officer holding me shuddered, and I froze as I noticed with shock that he was laughing. A low chuckle escaped him, and I felt a sick wave of confusion and horror sweep over me. As I looked around, I saw other officers trying to suppress their laughter, some covering their mouths to stifle the noise. What was happening? My heart raced as I turned back to Adam. His face had changed. Gone was the torment, replaced with disgust. He pulled the gun away from his mouth, coughing as though something had choked him. Lemon, he spat, glaring at the weapon in his hands as though it had betrayed him. Lemon, who thought this was a good idea? He aimed the gun at his hand and fired several times, mocking its complete ineffectiveness. They're all lemons, he shouted, his frustration building. The tension that had gripped us shattered, and the officers burst into uncontrollable laughter, their voices ringing through the yard, mocking everything that had come before. Real funny, guys, Adam muttered, sending a bitter glare toward the nearest officer. But then, in one swift motion, he pulled something from his pocket, small clips, and inserted them into the gun. My heart froze, but something felt off about the way he did it, like he knew exactly what he was doing. He raised the gun to his mouth again, pulled the trigger, and to my horror, he started chewing. What is happening? The scene felt like a feverish nightmare. The absurdity of it paralyzed me. Cherry, I love that flavor, Adam murmured, looking at me for a moment before turning his attention to the stunned reporters. Pez, he added, his laughter echoing in my ears. It felt like a cruel joke, an unmistakable reminder of how completely I had been outwitted. You thought you could outsmart me? He sneered, his eyes flashing with malevolent glee. Remember last week when I was testing that new security system for Max? One of the gadgets was a listening device. I overheard everything, Maya. Everything. You had me fooled, he continued, his voice growing darker. I was on the brink, but when I overheard you and Letitia conspiring, I got mad. I was furious. The officer who had been holding me tightly pulled my arms behind my back and snapped the handcuffs on. The cold metal bit into my wrists like a painful reminder of my own treachery. We couldn't charge you before, you know. It was your word against mine. But then we came up with this little setup. Adam gestured expansively to the scene around us, a look of eerie satisfaction on his face. We didn't count on the news van showing up, but we adjusted. Well, I guess it worked out for us, he said with a dark laugh. You were so easy to deceive, Maya. And now I get to watch as the charges stack up. You're going to pay for this. I had thought we were beyond this. We had already discussed the charges. Aggravated assault, wasn't it? And what about the controlled substance charge? I'm sure you've thought about how Letitia will get caught in this too. I can't thank you enough for your honesty. Just so you know, this is all happening live on air. Do you think your parents are tuning in? His voice was thick with sarcasm, a biting coldness that sank deep into my chest. An officer approached, slipping a blue form into my jacket. The date and time stamped on it read 02:18 p.m., June 8th. Thank you. Served. My heart dropped into my stomach. This couldn't be real. It had to be a mistake. All I ever wanted was to feel something different, to grasp at a glimpse of my past, to hold on to some youthful thrill before we started our family, before I embraced motherhood. What? You honestly think I would stay married to you after everything? How naive do you think I am? Adam turned toward the reporter, his voice laced with mockery. Sorry for the confusion, but it was the only way. My world was collapsing. Was this real? Was this really happening? I had plans, dreams. This was supposed to be the year Adam and I began our family. We had dreams, soccer games, family outings, barbecues. I had a husband who loved me, or at least, I thought he did. My mind was unraveling. Was this a nightmare? How could I have been so blind? The affair had been a mistake from the very beginning. Was there any way I could ever earn his forgiveness? As the officer dragged me away to read me my rights, I heard the reporter's voice in the distance. That's fine. But can we have a quick interview? Just the two of us? Maybe over dinner? That's when I realized the end had come. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.